I'm going to show you how to take all the parts that you've created for your SeaPerch, and now we're going to assemble them together. We're going to be able to copy the parts that we've already created as many times as we need, and recreate our SeaPerch in 3 dimensions. So what we're going to do, I'm inside the SeaPerch folder that we've created. Click your plus sign again. We can call this SeaPerch Assembly because we're going to assemble everything. You can call it whatever you want. Now, here's the big thing. At the bottom of my screen, I'm in Parts Studio 1 right now. I need to click the little tab that says Assembly 1. This is where we're going to bring all the parts in one by one as we need them, and then we're going to connect them together. So how I get started is I need to bring some parts in. So in the upper corner here, the little box or cube with the arrow, this is to select parts that you've already created. I'm going to go to Other Documents, and I'm going to go to My Onshape. And this is where you would want to search in that SeaPerch folder that you created. Here are all my parts. I'm going to start with the connectors, some of them. I don't want to do all of them at one time, but I'm just going to start and use these as an example because for everybody it's going to be different. Let's do the T-joints. Click on that. And actually I'm going to back up here. Let's do an elbow joint. Why not? You're going to get this blue box. It says Create a New Version in Elbow. So I'm going to click that. You can call it something if you want to. I always just click Save Version. That's going to create this copy that we need. Give it a second to think. And I can click on Part 1 over here on the left-hand side, and it immediately puts an elbow inside of my drawing space, which is what I want to do. So I'm going to stop there. I want one elbow, and now I'm going to show you how to move the elbow around and how to connect a piece of PVC into that elbow correctly. So I'm going to first, where it says Insert in the upper left corner, I'm going to hit the check mark to accept. Now I could click on the elbow here, it's selected, and I could then click and pull the elbow and put it where I want it to go. I'm actually going to double tap in the workspace to unselect it. You see my origin point right here. I'm going to tell my assembly to lock my elbow joint to that origin point. So you want to have something that is locked to that origin point so that later on it's not moving certain parts that you already have connected, and you want those to stay where they're at. So we're going to do this. I'm going to click the little icon in the upper left corner next to the box with the arrow in it. It looks like a circle with a rectangle next to it. And I'm going to do something called a fastened mate. So this is going to connect 2 pieces together. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, and I'm going to click on my circle and click on the point in the circle. Okay, you see on the left or right hand side here, it says one entity selected. So I've selected one thing. I need to select at least 2 things. And what I'm telling Onshape is that I want to put that face with this origin point. So I'm going to click the origin, and now I'm going to select which direction I want it to be pointed in. So I want it to face up and down. So I clicked just above the origin point then. So it's like a 2 click. So I clicked the origin point once, and then I clicked right above it, and that tells it to go vertical rather than horizontal. So as soon as I do that, it snaps onto the origin point. It is in the direction that I want it to. I do have some options down here in the lower right corner. I could click the little arrows just below the word offset, and it would flip it. So if that's something you need, you can utilize that feature. Likewise, if I want to offset it, like I want to select 2 points and tell it to be a certain distance apart from that point, like if I wanted it to be a ½ inch away from that origin point, I could go in here to my Z distance, and I could do, I think, -0.5 probably. and hit the check mark, and it will move ½ an inch from that origin point. So I don't actually want that. I want it right on the origin point for me. So I'm going to get rid of my offset, and I'm going to click the check mark to accept. Okay, now we have the elbow in. Let's bring in a piece of PVC. So the box with the arrow again, other documents, my SeaPerch folders where I have all my pieces. Let's do the 4-inch PVC. Create a version of that. Remember, you can name it whatever you want. I've already created a version, that's why it hasn't asked me to do that again. And I'm going to click part 1, and it should plop it right into my workspace. I can then move it if I wanted to by clicking it one time and it turns yellow. And then I can click and drag it wherever just to get it out of the way. I'm going to click the check mark in the upper left corner next to where it says insert to accept this. And now I'm going to actually put it, I want to connect it to my elbow, and I'm going to do this. It doesn't really matter where. I think I'm going to do it down here on this surface, on the lower right surface, and have it kind of go off to the right here. So I'm going to do a fastened mate. You can see up here in the upper left corner I have the little icon for fastened mate again. But if you didn't have that, you could click the little rectangle with the circle next to it, and then you have all your different selections in here. I'm just going to do fastened mate, and I'm going to select the two surfaces that I want to join together. So it doesn't matter which end of my PVC, but I'm going to click inside there once and then click the dot a second time. That is the icon that we should get, the little circle with the 3 colored lines coming out of it. Now it's very important how we do this here, where we connect it. So I'm going to click in here because that's where I want to connect it, and then I'm going to click that little dot. And when I do that, you see what it's doing. It's going through the elbow joint in the wrong direction. So down here in my little menu, if I click the arrows, it should reverse that. And I want to offset that because the PVC right now, they're just touching at the very end, that PVC and the elbow. I actually want the PVC to be connected inside of the elbow or a T-joint by ½ an inch. So I need to do an offset, and I'm not sure which distance this will be. Let's try Z and see what that does. Let's try 0.5, check mark, and it went the correct way. You can see if I would have done -0.5, it should go in the opposite direction, and now we get this gap between the two, if you can see it. And I don't want that. I want the PVC inside of the elbow joint 0.5. Okay, so I'll get rid of that negative. Click my check mark. It does so. I'm going to, next to where it says fastened number 2, I'm going to click the check mark to accept these changes. I like that. Okay, and I've got it connected. Now, maybe I want to put a T-joint here on the end of my 4-inch PVC, so I'm going to go up here to the box with the arrow again, bring in another part. Let's do T-joint. Remember, you're probably going to have to create a version of this if it's the first time you're bringing the part in. I'm going to click part 1, and it should put it into my workspace. Click the check mark to accept. I'm going to move him out of the way, so click it one time, it turns yellow. Click and drag it anywhere to get it out of your way, and then double tap in the workspace to unselect it. I'm going to select this surface here on the right hand side, and I'm going to connect it to this surface down here. So how I'm going to do this, another fastened mate. Click inside the circle, click the dot of the circle. Same thing down here. Okay, you can see that is obviously not the direction that I want this to go, so I'm going to click my little arrows underneath the word offset. It should flip it. So if something like this happens to you after you do a fasten mate where my T-joint is facing down and I want it to face the opposite direction, I want it to face up, I have to rotate it. So I'm going to go over here on my left-hand panel And I'm going to see where it says fastened 3. That was the third fastened mate that I did. Click the 3 dots, click edit. So this is something that I could have done while I was doing my original fastened mate with it. You see down here at the bottom where I have the directional arrows, and then there's like a circle next to it with an arrow in it. If I click that, it's going to rotate my T-joint, and I need to click it again. It's going to go by like 90 degrees each time, and that's exactly what I want, and I'm going to click my check mark to accept it. Now you could have done this, like I said, when you did your fasten mate with that part. I just forgot to do so, so I showed you how to go back in and fix that. So I'm going to click the check mark to accept, and that's it, guys. You're going to just kind of continue to do this along the way, bringing your parts in and fastening them together. And remember to use the offset of 1/2 inch when you connect a piece of PVC with some kind of joint.